The only place I didn't get hives was on my tits. It was hilarious. I had tracks all over my arm. I looked like a junkie or something. So funny that during my trip, I was worried about getting COVID and instead I nearly died from a random allergic reaction when I got home. Like,
so who cares? Why not do your own thing and let them say what they want?
What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna talk about why I was in the ICU for 36 hours. And that's also the reason that I haven't uploaded anything for about a month, except for my last video, which is kind of just a treat to you guys, an F&M. I wanted to come back to the channel with something a little spicier than a probably 40-minute video about a very confusing happening. We're gonna flash back to the beginning of January. It was about 4 days after the new year. And by the way, with the new year, my man is now a named partner in his firm. I never got to drop that on here, but we also do really, really funny reels and things on his page, on his firm's page. So I'm gonna drop that in the description if you guys wanna follow him and support. I'd really appreciate that. Also, if you ever get hurt in Nevada or need a ticket taken care of or something like that, you can hit him up. I think you can even hit him up for things that are outside of Nevada. He'll just refer it out to a lawyer that he knows in your area. But yeah, I'm so fucking proud of him. I'm just gonna drop that in there. And before we jump into the story too, I'm making it a habit of talking about things that I've done to improve my life. Really quickly, briefly, I'm putting one new thing that I'm trying or doing in the video, every single video, instead of having huge life updates where I just like puke at you all of the things I'm trying to self-improve, because I really do love self-improving. And I felt like an apropos one for this video would be one about what I'm doing with my laundry. I have now switched to a more natural laundry detergent. It hasn't really changed anything for me. I just really do like to streamline things to get out as many like random chemicals as I possibly can and have things with as few ingredients as possible. Just like when I eat, pretty much everything is whole foods. Now everything has very basic ingredients. I also have been doing this for a very long time, but I have 3 dryer balls made of wool instead of using those cling freeze or whatever they're called, the dryer sheets. I don't use those anymore and I haven't for a long time. The only difference for me is that you don't have like an overbearing smell in any of these things. I think my detergent is peppermint, and if you want to add a smell to your dryer balls, you can put essential oils in there. I do believe that the only other annoying thing is that it's not going to get rid of the static as much, but the more balls you put in, the better static mitigation there is. I am very staticky often, especially in the winter. But anyway, flashback to January 4th. If you guys follow me very intensely, you might know that every single year between Christmas and New Year's, Hunter and I go on a snowboarding trip because it's a good time for him and his work and everything. No one's filing motions or anything over the holiday season. I mean, some people are, but you know, they're generally considered assholes, so work slows down. We were in Steamboat, Colorado. We had gone there in the summer and we had to go back in the winter. We loved the vibe. So, some facts about this trip that you guys need to know to maybe get a better idea of what was going on at this time. I had been dealing with this weird bacterial vaginosis for like 2 months. I'd never had BV before, and this is basically like it's something with your pH gets messed up, so you have like a kind of a weird smell down there, right? TMI, I know. I went to the doctor and I got tested for it like 16 times along with like a full panel of STDs, not 16 times, but literally like 3 times in those 2 months. And each time the doctor said that I did not have BV. So I decided to take some of my BV medication that I had just in case. I used one of those like online pharmacies to have that and UTI medications because I am prone to UTIs, which is urinary tract infections. I took the BV medication and it actually cleared me up. A month prior to that, I had taken a certain BV medication that was more of a suppository, and that didn't clear it up. And then I tried the those little things you stick inside you that have some kind of acid that's also supposed to help you. On our Thanksgiving vacation, I was extremely ill and in pain because of that. I was getting like intense cramps, and I forget the name of it, but a lot of girls swear by it. I do not recommend doing 7 days of it. It fucking fucked me up. From basically Thanksgiving to this trip that's now in between Christmas and New Year's, I was kind of dealing with this, but I had just finished right before our trip a real round of antibiotics that I got as my like 3rd attempt and it cleared up the BV instantly. Really great news for me because I was really sick of kind of smelling weird, and I'm like, oh my God, Hunter, do you smell this? This is so weird. And he like would sometimes smell it, but sometimes not. And I'm like, this is so like not me. I have such a clean, pretty pussy that I would just stick it in people's faces and it would smell so good and smell like basically nothing, and it tastes good, and like, what is going on? So I was really frustrated for like 2 months at this weird BV that I was having. But then the day before we go on our trip, which is like, you know, Christmas or something, we decide to take a bath together, and I decided it's a great idea to, with all of the crap in the bath, I decided it's a good idea to actually jump on that dick. So these are little tidbits that are going to be helpful later on, maybe, I don't know, but yay for you getting to hear something about my sex life these days, because I don't really divulge a lot of it to you guys anymore. I'm sorry. So yeah, couldn't wait until we got out of the bath, just had to jump on the dick. I knew this was going to give me a UTI. I am prone to UTIs. I have like an inverted cervix or whatever the fuck, and it makes me prone to UTIs. I've had hundreds in my life. So I started getting the effects of it a little bit on my vacation, and because I'm so prone to UTIs, I always carry UTI medication with me on vacation, because that is the single best way to ruin my vacation, other than a few other things that we're going to mention here. So I had just started 7 days of this antibiotic that I don't think I've ever used before, called Macrobid, which is it's like super trendy right now for UTIs, especially if you're buying them online. It's like, I don't know, like easy to get. It seems easier to get. I usually use Bactrim, and for some reason on the online pharmacy, it recommends Macrobid, so I got that. So I had started Macrobid. We go to our trip, and Hunter gets extremely ill with COVID. So this whole trip, like the first 3 or 4 days, he's like trying his best to enjoy it. We're snowboarding kind of, and we're shopping kind of, and we're eating kind of, but like he's also taking a lot of time to like nap and is just not feeling well. So I'm like, fuck. Our Christmas to New Year's vacation is going to be plagued by him getting COVID, and then afterward, me getting COVID. So I'm just waiting to get COVID at this point while being on this Macrobid, right? So he finally gets a little better on the last 2 days of our vacation, and I'm still symptom-free. I feel great, and the Macrobid's finally kicking in, so I no longer have the UTI feelings. So we went into this trip with me having a UTI, feeling kind of like, oh God, this sucks, and then him having COVID. And we're ending the trip on a good note. Okay, so our very last day of the trip is absolutely phenomenal. We actually get to snowboard. We get to have fun. We have some cookies. We go to our favorite place over there, which is like this Irish pub that has phenomenal food. Oh my God, it's so good. And then we go to bed. I wake up in the middle of the night with an extremely itchy head. Now, this sometimes happens to me when I'm getting close to my period. And by the way, I'm also getting close to my period on this trip. It was just a clusterfuck. I also get really itchy calves. I think what it is I have a sensitivity to progesterone, which spikes right before my period, because that always seems to coincide when stuff gets itchy. I keep waking up because of this head itching. So I'm like, in the morning, I'm literally gonna take a shower, because I don't know if it's just like me not washing my hair for a long time, which is smart to do if you have bleach blonde hair like me. You don't wanna like overly dry it. So I would go upwards of like 9 days sometimes without washing my hair. This time it was only like 5 days, but I was also snowboarding and I don't know. So I kept waking up, and in the morning I'm like, oh my God, I have to jump in the shower because it's so fucking itchy. Hunter's looking at my neck, and my whole neck is red. Alongside that, like where my bra was touching my body is just like bright red. And it's not like the normal indents that you get when you're like a white girl with pale skin and like something's pulling on your skin. It was like bright fucking red, and it was hot too. It almost felt kind of like a fucking sunburn or something. So I'm like, dude, I don't know what the fuck. The only thing I could think of that was new is I had bought a new snowboarding jacket, and I wore it the last day snowboarding without washing it. That's all I could think of. I didn't use any new products. I didn't eat anything new. I'm not allergic to anything. So I was just thinking this is like a really severe case of me getting the itchies before my period. I shower, I take a Claritin, and we drive home. On the drive home, the itching starts getting better. Like I stopped noticing it as much. It's still itchy, but it wasn't to the point where I'm like, oh, I just have to fucking itch this. That's how bad it was when I was sleeping. It was really hard to stay asleep. I kept waking up. So we're driving home, and like halfway home, I realized that my eyes are kind of painful and itchy. Now, I had sprayed my face with sunscreen because it's like an 8-hour drive or a 10-hour drive or something, and you know, sunscreen, you gotta re-up on it. I don't want to fuck with my skin. I'm crazy about skincare now. And I was thinking I just got like sunscreen in my eyes or something, but I kept like blotting the corners and being like, oh, why are they like painful and itchy? When I get home, We have some pizza because we're like, hey, last day of the trip, let's fucking eat some pizza. And I look in the mirror. It has nothing to do with the pizza, by the way. This probably had happened before the pizza. So I look in the mirror and my eyes are actually puffy. I'll post a picture of what I looked like here. And I was starting to get progressively more itchy as the Claritin was wearing off. I am like, all right, I'm gonna try to go to the urgent care tomorrow morning since it's already 10 o'clock at night. I'm just gonna try to sleep this off. And in the middle of the night, I'm just so itchy. Now it's my entire body that's itching. And my eyes are puffing up. I can feel it because when I'm going like this to itch my eyes, it feels like there's like a droop of skin over my eyelids. It's like, what the fuck is going on? I look in the mirror and my face is puffy and my whole body is red and covered in hives, like my whole body. Here's a picture of like my stomach and my torso and stuff. It was even worse on my ass and legs, and it was literally like 100% of my body was breaking out in hives. I don't know what's going on. I think I took a Benadryl that night or something, and I was still in this state, like just hives everywhere. And I'm like having these kind of little panic attacks trying to sleep. And I'm like, Hunter, I think I have to go to the emergency room. I don't think I can wait to go to the fucking urgent care tomorrow. This seems kind of severe. At that point, I was also having like, it felt like I had food caught in my throat or something. Like I could take deep breaths, I could drink water, I could swallow, but it just felt like there was some kind of like food or something caught in my throat. So we go to the ER and Hunter's like, you should probably play up the throat thing because then they'll think you're anaphylactic and they'll take you back quicker, which is, you know, the case. Like if you're dying, they want to take you back quicker. They take me back immediately and put me on a stretcher, like in a random area in the ER. It's so ghetto in the ER portion. It's like they're just throwing people on beds. There was some girl behind me that was like coming up from an OD or something, and I don't know, whatever. So they take my vitals seem good. They're like listening for wheezing in my lungs, and she's like, oh, you're like slightly wheezy, but not too crazy. But the fact that you have like a throat reaction, the fact that you feel like there's something caught in your throat, you are definitely experiencing anaphylaxis, and we're not gonna take this lightly. So I'm like, okay, shit. It didn't feel life-threatening to me at all. It wasn't a quick progression. It was a very slow progression that kind of felt like it wasn't gonna get any worse than it was now. But they hit me with an EpiPen in my arm, and then they hit me with a concoction of other shit, kind of like a crazier Benadryl and like steroids and some other shit that like, oh my God, dude. My stomach started cramping like crazy, and like TMI, I took like 16 shits, dude. It was crazy. Like it was just clearing me the fuck out, and I felt horrible. Like it was so crampy. So I'm like, hey, I don't know what you gave me, but like I'm cramping. And this was like a med student who was like nursing me at the time. And he's like, didn't you say you were about to get your period? And I'm like, sure, whatever. I know what my period feels like. It's not me like literally dying, right? But whatever. So that eventually goes away. After 2 hours, they come back and they're like, it's not really going away. Usually when you have an allergic reaction, you get hit with an EpiPen, you go back to normal pretty quickly. But I still had redness, itching, some hives, not as much. My face wasn't as swollen. Oh, and a funny thing, they thought that my lips were swollen, which was another reason why they were so worried about anaphylaxis. Because if your lips and tongue swell, that's like an actual physical barrier to breathing. But like, I'm 90% sure I wasn't even swollen in the lips. It was just like lip filler. They're like, why is your reaction not going down? This is very atypical. They hit me with another EpiPen. And this time I didn't have any weird, adverse, shitty, no pun intended, reactions. But I still wasn't getting much better. So I was like 5 hours into the stay. I think it was like 2 a.m. or something. And they're like, we recommend that we admit you overnight and watch you. And I freak out at that. Okay, so to put the stress into perspective, we had just gotten home from a trip. And usually when we do a trip, we get as caught up as we possibly can, but we're like ready to get back at work. Both of us are like stressed to get back to work, not the next day, but the day after. And we're just like, oh my God, we have meal prep to do. We have like preparation to do. We really just want to like cuddle in bed. I wanted nothing more than to just decompress in bed after like such a traumatic experience, right? So I was like, no, I'm not being admitted. And they were like, well, it's your choice. But she was like, please go to a 24-hour pharmacy and get an EpiPen. Like fill this prescription for this EpiPen that I'm giving you now, because like it is sketchy, whatever is going on with you. And I'm like, okay, fine. So we go and we get home around like 5 a.m. with an EpiPen. I sleep it off. And then in the morning, I feel like not 100% better, but like I feel better. I'm well enough to meal prep that day. We're just taking it easy. We're hanging out. And then we end up going to bed and we're supposed to be like working the next day. I am really uncomfortable at night. It starts to get a little worse at night. And Hunter's like, let's just chill. Let's just try to have you go to the urgent care in the morning and see what's going on and hopefully get you in with your like primary care to try to figure this out and, you know, get you some meds or whatever. So I sleep throughout the night and it's not that bad. I'm kind of itchy, kind of puffy, but like it's okay. And then in the morning, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make a really early appointment with my doctor, which is also an urgent care place. So I was just gonna do like kill two birds with one stone, basically. I had that appointment and I'm laying in bed and I'm ready to get up for this appointment. And I tell Hunter, I'm like a little anxious about this. I kind of feel worse than I think I should. Will you come with me? And he's like, oh my God, I'm gonna be so behind on work. And he's like not taking me seriously, but he's like, all right, okay, I'll do it. And I'm like, thank you so much. I feel off. I start drinking one of my electrolyte waters that I drink pretty much every morning. And we're driving to the urgent care place. And I am just like sweating and I'm like, oh my God, you have to pull over because I have to puke. I'm like dry heaving because I hadn't had anything to eat. And I'm just like, I feel like fucked up. I don't really know what it is, but like everything is hard. Like moving is hard. Getting back into the Jeep, like hoisting myself up back into his Jeep was fucking hard. And I'm like, dude, I think I need to go to the ER. So I'm going to the ER at like 8 a.m. in the morning, much busier at this time. I'm like shaking and in a room with like 100 other people. The front desk girl is like, oh my God, you boyfriend have to wait out in the waiting area because there's no chairs back there. And I'm like, no, he's fucking coming with me. I'm not going back there alone. And she's like, okay, whatever. I'm not gonna fight with you. I'm just telling you he's not gonna have a place to sit. And I'm like, really? That's why you're telling him he can't go back? Because he'll have to stand? Like, whoa, whatever. So we go back there and they're trying to IV me and I have to stop in the middle of the IV because they can't find my fucking vein. I don't know why. I have like insane veins now. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's like fucking insane now. Like just go, they're insane. But for some reason they were hiding fucking, oh, and a symptom I forgot to mention the night before when I went to the ER was my knee was so swollen. I could barely like move my leg. Today it was like my arm, or that day, it was my arms were swollen so I couldn't see my veins. So I'm like, hey, you gotta stop. I gotta go fucking puke. And I go in the bathroom and I'm just like puking the fucking electrolyte water out and I'm just like, can I handle like 2 minutes without puking to get this fucking IV in? And so they finally get the IV in. They give me a fucking the shit that makes you not want to puke anymore, which is great. I'm finally not wanting to puke. That's like the worst affliction to have when you're in public, like needing to keep puking or whatever. Awful. They give me an EpiPen. They fucking give me the same shit they gave me before, and they give me the anti-nausea medication. And I'm feeling a little better. I'm still pretty fucking puffy. And they're like, look, we're gonna admit you because we don't know what the fuck is going on with you. And they recommend that I go to the ICU because of the tightness in the throat and stuff. They're like worried that I'm gonna just randomly just die of anaphylaxis, right? So they put me in the ICU. It was actually really nice. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was nice. We had a private room. They were like, how private do you want this? Do you want us to like close the things? We had a private bathroom in there with a little curtain and I had like a table. The only annoying thing, well, I mean, there's a lot of annoying things about being in the ICU and not being able to go home and be in your own bed and like do your own thing. The most annoying thing though was that I had to be 100% of the time in the ICU connected to vitals. So I couldn't get up and walk around. I couldn't get any exercise. I couldn't like do anything for myself. I literally just had to sit there with like an IV in my arm and then the fucking vitals on the other arm. And like, it was really hard to get like comfortable and move around. It was awful. Like anytime I had to go to the bathroom, I had to call them in. I had the greatest nurse for my day shift there. She was so cool. Like she was just very down to earth, like very knowledgeable. She was helpful. She was like, if you need to unclip yourself, like whatever. Like I think you're stable. You're young. You're like the youngest patient I've ever had, she said. And probably the most normal. It was pretty scary. Like Hunter would go out and get us coffee at Starbucks and he would walk around and it was just like people alone dying. It was sad. Like so many people going through that alone. So grateful that Hunter stayed with me the entire time. And so I wasn't getting better throughout the day. So they wanted to keep me overnight. And then they were like, if everything's cool, we'll discharge you after that. But I'm so traumatized now because I'm like, I got all these meds before and I got all this attention before and I had like 5 hours of people monitoring me and like it happened again, you know? So I'm like, what is different this time? They tried a bunch of different medications. Apparently there's like a 1 and a 2 type of antihistamine, like, and they target different things in the brain or body or whatever. And then there's like another pathway where you can take Pepsid, and even though that's like a stomach thing, it also helps with antihistamines. I don't know, but they gave me all that shit. I was so itchy in the night, but I was not as puffy anymore, and they only had to give me 1 EpiPen. So I had 3 EpiPens in the last 48 hours, okay? And it was just pretty boring after that. Nothing really happened. Just slowly my symptoms would go away, but at night they would flare up again, but not like crazy. Like if I had had those flares during the night, I would have not gone back to the hospital, if that makes sense. I was really itchy in the night. They gave me like a topical ointment that didn't work. When I was at my max itchiness, nothing worked. None of the antihistamines, none of the topical stuff, nothing worked. It was just, oh, I need to like peel my skin off, and I would try so hard not to. I would just sit there and be like, don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it, you know? But it was like so bad. Hunter like laid in bed with me. We had the tiny little hospital bed, and we like slept in the hospital bed, and he was like on the arm with the IV, which had nothing in it at that time, but it had like dangly wires. And so I'm like trying really hard not to like fuck up my IV in my arm. God, look at these veins now. Why couldn't they be like this during that? But my hand was so swollen, I couldn't see any veins in my hand. It was just like a big fat hand. My fingers are always sausage fingers, but it was like way worse. They ended up discharging me like at 1 p.m. the next day. So I was in the hospital from like 8 a.m. to like 1 p.m. the next day. And they were like, look, you got to schedule with your primary, who's going to send you to an allergist, and you're just going to have all of these meds that you should be taking when you need it, right? So I kept a long ass diary. I kept a diary of everything that happened before. I kept a diary of everything that happened after. And now at 2 months after, I've finally stopped writing in that diary because I finally feel normal again. But for the last 2 months, I have not felt normal. And by the way, I just got my test results back from my fucking allergist because it took me over a month to get in with the allergist. And we'll go over everything at the end. So I had no idea what caused this at all. Sure, I was in an Airbnb that like had different sheets and different everything, but it was the 9th day of our trip. There was nothing new. We didn't eat anything new. It's all stuff I've eaten before. I'm not crazy with exploring with food. I like bar food, especially on vacation. Cookies, that was like one of the things I had the night before. I didn't use any different creams, any different lotions. I wasn't exposed to anything different. I was just snowboarding. It couldn't have been bugs because it's so fucking cold there at that point. It was snowing, like where would bugs be? And I'm like fully covered head to toe anytime we went hiking. The only thing I could think of was like, yeah, I wasn't living as clean that week. And also I had finished Macrobid that day that I started getting itchy. And also Hunter had just exposed me to COVID, which I never got, by the way. So funny that during my trip, I was worried about getting COVID, and instead I nearly died from a random allergic reaction when I got home. Like, thank God I at least got home before I decided to start dying. So I wasn't like stuck in Colorado in like, so, honestly, the hospital would have been better in Colorado. We have the worst hospitals in the country. Worst education system in the country. But anyway, this hospital is actually pretty good, and I loved my nurses and the doctors and stuff. Today, 2 months later, I finally am starting to feel normal again. I started to feel normal probably about a week ago, and I still don't know what the fuck happened to me. I'm not allergic to anything. I've had the scratch tests before. I'm just not allergic to anything. The only thing I'm allergic to is mesquite pollen. And you know, when you're allergic to pollen, it's just more like, oh my God, my eyes are itchy. It's not like, I'm fucking dying, you know? And there's mesquite trees all around here. I never have allergic reactions or allergic symptoms ever. Like, I'm the least allergic person ever. So what the fuck happened to me? I just don't even know. The only other thing I can think of is my allergy to progesterone, or my sensitivity to progesterone maybe got like 10 times worse, or it's just like a perfect storm of things, like me not eating and drinking as I usually do as cleanly, and me being on 2 antibiotics back to back, one for the BV, one for the UTI, being exposed to COVID, like just all these things at once just like freaked my body out. But like for so long, I was itchy after. I would have hot spots on my hands and arms, like I would feel like I had a sunburn in a particular spot that I didn't even touch. And it was just like a big red spot that would go away, and then it would be over here. And that happened to me for weeks, if not months. No, it was the hot spots and the feeling like I had sunburns and stuff out of nowhere. That happened for weeks. But then for months after, I was like pretty itchy. And I had to stay off of any kind of allergy meds for 14 days before my allergy testing, which was like 2 weeks ago. That was kind of scary because I had been using it as like if I'm getting a little itchy, I'm afraid I'm gonna have the huge flare up again. So like, while this doesn't seem like such a big deal, in my headspace, I'm kind of like a hypochondriac and a worrier. And I was worried that like, if I just let a little bit of itch build up, I would be back in the fucking ICU not knowing what to do. Or I was worried that like every 2 weeks I'd be back in the ICU with this weird thing. Or that like I'll be out somewhere and I forgot my EpiPen, which now I have to bring everywhere, and I don't even wear a purse. And it's just like, I can't leave it in the Jeep because it'll get too warm. And it's like, it was like so much stuff. I was really in a weird headspace. And they gave me hydroxyzine at a certain point because they're like, okay, it's stronger than Benadryl, and it has kind of like, it has a secondary use as an anxiety medication, and I do not do well with anxiety meds. So I took that for 2 days after being home from the hospital only like a week, and I was literally suicidal. I remember just going on a walk with Hunter, and like, he does not know how to deal with this stuff. He's never had any kind of like, he's an avoidant personality. Like, he's like, I'll just fucking pull myself up on my bootstraps. I've never been depressed. Like, if I'm sad, it's just deal with it, push through. And I'm literally like crying, like, I really hope this passes, but I don't even know who I am anymore. And I was just like literally just like hysterical because of this fucking medication. And then also not knowing like where I'm going with my life. I'm like, do I have autoimmune? I tested negative for autoimmune. Oh, they tested me for like so much shit. While I was in the hospital, they took my blood like 10 times. I looked like I was I had tracks all over my arm. I looked like I was a fucking like a junkie or something. It was crazy, and it took forever. It was bruised. Oh my God, you guys. I was fucking obsessively taking pictures of my face after I got home from the fucking hospital to make sure I wasn't once again fucking puffing up. Like, I was constantly terrified. I was asking Hunter every morning, do I look puffy? Do I look puffy? And I started getting puffy every night as I slept because we started using a humidifier, and now I'm like, I gotta wash the humidifier like crazy. What if that gives me an allergy? I stopped everything in my fucking beauty routine to see if it was something like that. I got pale. I took my extensions out. I fucking stopped wearing makeup for a little bit. I stopped putting anything on my skin that wasn't like Cetaphil or CeraVe, just like the most basic shit, because I was terrified. And the funny thing was, to really illustrate how non-allergic and how non-sensitive I am, as I was adding things back, nothing changed. And then my most feared appointment came up, my hair appointment, where I put 20 volume bleach directly onto my scalp. And let me fucking tell you how obnoxious this shit was. I put Cetaphil on my neck right here so that like it would be like a barrier to make sure that I wasn't getting the shit directly on my neck. You know, I'm like, let's just put Cetaphil on as a barrier for this bleach. As I wiped the Cetaphil on my neck was bright red, like I scratched the shit out of myself. But the fucking bleach didn't do anything to me. Like, I wasn't itchy. Sometimes I get itchy with the bleach on my head. Like, it's fucking bleach on your head. That didn't even happen to me. I'm like, the bleach is fine, but my neck where I touched it is bright red. Where I would touch myself for like weeks, like if I just went like that, it would become bright red and be raised. I had a friend in elementary school who could write on herself that way. Like, she would write notes on herself or like write some guy's name on her arm just with her nail. It was like a weird, just like super sensitivity to the skin. And I had that for a little bit. I'm finally normal, guys. I've tried everything. I have a list of things to try, and nothing flared it up again or made a difference. And what do you know? I got my test results back today. They basically did a panel of a bunch of like random stuff that they think it could be, and it's all like doctor jargon, I'm not sure, but then they also tested me for everything that I eat. Like everything that I eat on a regular basis or may come in contact with because it's a common ingredient. And drum roll, I am not allergic to everything, and every single test came back good. Nothing abnormal, nothing out of the green. In fact, I actually went to my primary a week before I got my allergy testing, and they did the full like, you know, yearly physical body panel. And once again, pat on the back for how fucking clean I eat and how much I work out and how healthy I am now. But like, I literally had perfect blood work. Like my glucose, my A1C, my LDL, my HDL, everything was perfect. So I'm like, what is wrong with me? Oh my God, it's crazy. I don't know what happened to me. I still don't believe that I need to carry an EpiPen because like whatever happened to me must have been like the freakiest thing ever because I'm not allergic to anything. And even the doctors said this isn't a normal reaction to being allergic to something. But they also said it doesn't seem like a flare-up of autoimmune. I got tested for autoimmune. The only thing I do have is a slightly raised, or actually it's pretty raised, rheumatoid factor. Now there's rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune disease, but like they said that a lot of white people, a lot of like Scandinavian, whatever, European type people have that raised, and that's just an indicator that you might be more prone to it when you get old. And then they asked me, do you have any joint pain or anything like right now? And I'm like, no, not at all. So I might just get rheumatoid arthritis when I get older. Yay for me, love to be Nordic. We love that. I also went and got my eyes checked. That's all great. But as you'll find out if you watch my next video, I now wear glasses for funsies, basically. Like I don't need it for anything, but it helps me see text far away at night when I'm driving. I don't know. They look cute on me. It's nice to know that I'm not allergic to anything. It's not, well, I guess it's not nice to know because if there was something glaringly obvious that set me off, that would be nice to know. But yeah, the doctors were like, this is certainly abnormal and peculiar, and they're like curious about it as well. It's annoying when a doctor is like, that's a very annoying feeling. I've had 2 periods now, and each period I get itchier, which freaks me out a little bit. And then I'm like, fuck, is it happening again? But it hasn't happened for 2 periods. I did a fast, which I was also scared about. I'm just scared about reintroducing everything because I'm like, something could set it off. I have injections and Botox next week. I'm afraid of that. You know, I'm like, just fuck, what's gonna set me off? I don't know, even though nothing is related. So the only thing I can think of is like a perfect storm of like my body just being mad at something. And then it just had to get out of my system. It really felt like it was something within my system because of how long it lingered. When I did my fast, I also stayed on allergy meds to try to like make sure that nothing flared up because I have had keto hives before, which is a thing that happens and nobody knows why. I had it once, just like a little patch of hives when I was doing a fast. That seemed to pretty much clear me up. So now I have like emergency fucking, you know, higher dose Claritin and Benadryl, and I have emergency steroids for relief just in case it happens again. I have my EpiPen, but like, I don't know. I spent 2 months thinking about this every day, detailing everything every day. Let me actually show you like how fucking much I wrote in this diary. I wrote every day my symptoms and being itchy and all this stuff. Like here is the top, just like stuff that I think might have happened. I was wondering if my copper IUD maybe did something. I fucking wrote so much. Look how much I scroll. It's just like, woke up with puffy eyes, no other symptoms, took Allegra just in case, eyes puffy, skin still crazy red. That was another thing. I got a hydrofacial, which I'd done before, and that made my skin purge like crazy. And I'm like, is this again like an allergic thing, or is it the purging? I don't know. Like I was sensitive for a while, took Claritin like almost every day. Look at this sad face emoji. Oh my God, finally forgetting about it and sometimes feeling normal. That's how crazy it was. It really fucked with my mental. I was like, is this gonna affect my fitness journey? Is this gonna affect my work? I couldn't work for a while because everything was so sensitive on my skin. I couldn't like bounce my boobs, or like the fake cum already gives me kind of like redness sometimes. I couldn't do that for a while. Like it took me like 2 weeks before I could even film any content for you guys on the spicy sites. And that's why I hadn't filmed anything on YouTube, because that's kind of what goes by the wayside when I'm not caught up on things. But yeah, the last thing I want to note, because I know haters are going to say this and haters aren't going to listen to this far, but you know, if you know, you know, in the comment section, people say breast implant illness. That's so poorly documented. The doctors don't think anything of it. Plastic surgeons will tell you it's just like bad science. It's mostly other stuff like autoimmune or like Lyme's disease or whatever the fuck. And it has nothing to do with that. It's just like psychosomatic. If it gets better after you take your implants out. The only place I didn't get hives was on my tits. It was hilarious. I didn't get it like on my chest. My chest got a little red like right here, but I didn't have it on my tits or my under boob or anything like that. It was just like stomach, legs, ass, arms. Fucking my head was itchy as shit. Yeah, that was the only thing not affected, and I'm fucking like 8 months out now from my surgery, so no doctor thinks it's related. But it is nice hater fodder. Haters always want to like think that like, oh, you're doing something good, so let's like fucking tear it down. Like, oh, it must be your implants or how lean you are or some stupid shit like that. But Yeah, anyway, that's my story. That's where I've been. I bet now you are glad I started with an F&M instead of this super long, super confusing and frustrating, kind of probably boring story, but it's out there now. I fucking have no clue. If you've had anything like this happen to you, let me know in the comments, because I had some people tell me, like I had one guy tell me on my spicy site, shout out to Daniel, that this happened to him. He ate the same thing at the same diner and he just had like a crazy allergic reaction to something and then it never happened again. So if you have had any weird shit like this happen, especially if it's like a prolonged thing where like an EpiPen doesn't help and it's not like a quick onset, like a lot of people I've seen have like nut allergies and stuff, they fucking like swell up within minutes and they'll die within an hour, you know? This was not the case for me. I was able to, the second night, sleep the whole fucking night while still having this happen to me and then slowly go in. It's weird. It's not like a regular allergic reaction. So if you have any thoughts, please post them down in the comments, even if you don't think they're helpful. I don't mind people not being helpful. I just want to hear your stories and maybe relate to you guys a little bit. And yeah, tell me your allergy drama. Let's see if anyone can beat mine. Like, were you somewhere without an EpiPen just fucking like dying and ballooning up? Man, I'm just gonna post these fucking pictures again of me being puffy and hivey because they're pretty insane. The second day, I definitely did have more than just lip injections. It was fucking wild. I love you so much. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for what I know is gonna be a lot of kind words in the comments. I'm doing a lot better now, and Hunter has been instrumental in keeping me sane. Even though he's not very good at, like, even though it's not natural to him, he's been my fucking rock. I don't know what I would have done without him, honestly. Like, he brought his work to the hospital. And I have a picture of that too. He's just working, using it as a standing desk. And he actually went home and like prepared me dinner, like so I didn't have to eat the hospital food, and brought it here, and like, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. He was amazing. Scariest thing ever and most stressful thing in my life is, especially on top of having the psychological issues with the hydroxyzine, where I literally didn't know who I was anymore. It was horrible. Thank you, and shout out to Hunter and to all of you guys. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm hopefully back, and of course, if anything comes up, I will update you guys, but as of now, I'm just more strict with stuff, even though I don't have to be. Like, I used to not wash my sheets and my towels as much. Now I have a new set of sheets every single week, and I've used that to be a better housemaker too, a better homemaker, housewife, whatever. I actually like style the beds now and stuff. It's super cute. I don't wear anything anymore that I haven't like washed first. I used to get like Fashion Nova hauls and I would just wear the thing before I washed it, especially if it was like, I'm not sure if I like this yet, but now I don't do that anymore. I'm just paranoid now. But so far, nothing has triggered me. I'm back to normal. Another thing was like, they say that allergic reactions get worse when you work out, but every time I did cardio, it actually made me feel better. Like, I would go to the gym a little itchy, and then halfway through my run, I would fucking feel good. Like, it felt good so I don't know, it just felt like I was getting it out of my system or something. All right, I'm done talking about this. Like I said, it's gonna be a 40-minute video. It's a 40-minute video. Talk to you guys soon. Love you. Bye.